welcome to another edition of Long Beach Treasures. I'm your host, Harvey Keller. Today we're at the historic Rancho Los Alamitos, and we're going to be looking at their historic gardens. What a beautiful, beautiful place this is. So come with me, and we're going to start in here in the secret garden. And joining me in here is landscape designer Barbara Paul, who knows all about the gardens here at the Rancho. Hi, Barbara.
Good day. Happy to see everyone.
Now tell us a little bit about the secret garden.
This is a wonderful little space that really is very indicative of the indoor-outdoor living style in Southern California. This is very much a room of the house, even though it's outside.
And the architects were?
This was the Olmsted Brothers, and the Olmsted Brothers, their father was actually the premier landscape architect in the United States. He designed Central Park in New York.
Aha. Anything else?
The Boston Common, the whole Boston Green Necklace, and the reason the Olmsted Brothers, his sons, were out here working is they were laying out the city of Palos Verdes.
Oh, and so Florence Bixby is the one that hired them to do her gardens?
Exactly.
So this was a place where she could play with her grandchildren and have a few moments of peace and sit, relax with a cup of tea and just enjoy the scenery.
Indeed.
Let's go on out and look at some of the other gardens.
All right.
Now, Barbara, this is called the South Garden?
This is the South Garden, yes, and this is the old ranch house behind us here.
Beautiful bougainvillea.
Isn't it wonderful? And the trees,
We'll talk
magnificent?
about those in just a minute. They are indeed magnificent. Okay, now this is called the Geranium Walk.
It is, and it's called that because of these wonderful geraniums along the side here.
At one time, wasn't this the children's play area?
It was, as a matter of fact. This is where the children kept their donkey carts and their rabbits and pens and all that sort of thing. And then when they grew up, it wasn't needed anymore, and Florence Bixby turned it into this wonderful geranium.
Now, I think this had a different architect, did it not?
It did.
And it was?
This was Florence Yock. And Florence Yock was well known for doing historical sites, and she also did Hollywood sets. She designed all the sets for Gone with the Wind.
Wow, so she has some great credentials too.
Indeed. And this is probably the closest thing we have to a historic mission-style garden here at the ranch. And originally, you used to be able to sit here and look out to the ocean.
Oh, the gardens here are just phenomenal. And this little gazebo here.
This would have been a wonderful place to get out of the sun on a hot sunny
And
day.
I understand you could sit here and have a cup of tea in the morning or a martini in the evening, and you could look to the south, and the vistas would be the shimmering Pacific Ocean with Catalina in the background.
It would, it would. We have olive trees down here now. As society became encroaching on the hillside, Florence Bixby then had these olive trees put down at the end to change the vista.
Isn't it ironic the vista changed because of the discovery of oil, and the revenue from the oil allowed Florence to change her vistas?
It's absolutely true. If it weren't for the oil, she wouldn't have needed to, and if it weren't for the oil, she wouldn't have had the resources to do it.
And this is the Rose Garden.
This is the Rose Garden, also designed by the Olmsted Brothers.
Oh, I see we have some guests having lunch. Thank you for joining us at the Rancho.
The roses here in this garden, Harvey, are not typical roses that you would find today if you were out shopping for roses.
How come?
We have used roses that were typically used in about the early 1900s, around 1920, because that's the way it was done. This is a historic garden, and we have tried to replicate what originally was here.
Are these bushes a little closer than you would normally plant?
A whole lot closer. You wouldn't do this in your normal garden, but the reason we've done it is we continue to perpetuate the mistakes of the original gardener, Florence Bixby.
And I see here we have the replica of the old timepiece that Florence used to tell time.
Yes, it's a sundial, and unfortunately it doesn't recognize daylight savings time. The sundial is accurate about 4 times a year.
And I know one of those is Christmas Day.
One of those is Christmas Day. And one is April, I think it's the 16th, June, somewhere around the 14th, and September the 14th.
And it can be anywhere from 16 minutes slow to 14 minute fast.
It can.
And I believe it's set to the longitude and latitude of the Rancho?
It is. And this is a replica of the original piece that deteriorated. And I see from my watch it says that it's a little after 1, and sure enough, it is.
Hey, maybe this is one of those magic days.
That's right. That's right.
And this down here is called the olive patio?
It is. And it was added on to the end of the rose garden here by the Olmsted brothers as a place where you could come down here now and look back to the fabulous view that was created if you look back into the yard.
This is an unusual design using the small river rocks to give this a different texture, a different feel, a different look.
It is. And I understand it is indicative of Moorish styles that may have been used at the Alhambra, for instance, in Spain, and it's fairly typical of the Spanish look that we have here today.
Now, Florence looked upon these gardens as an extension of the house. These were rooms to be lived in. These were to be where you could entertain, where you could relax and just enjoy.
Indeed. Very much a part of the house.
And they're so relaxing. You know, if you wouldn't hear an airplane go over periodically, you'd swear you're in a different time era altogether.
It's absolutely true. In fact, a lot of people from outside the rancho don't realize we're here, and when we're here, it feels like we're in the country, and you wouldn't know that there's a big city all around us here.
And we're going to go next, I think, through the Oleander Walk.
Okay, let's do that.
I know that at this time there is a blight that's hitting the oleanders.
Sad, yes, unfortunately. So our historic oleanders are rather sick right now, but nevertheless, the structure of the oleander walk with that beautiful vista down at the end is still very much with us.
The canopy of the oleanders, the brick walkway, the lush English ivy on both sides, blue plumbago, I believe, is that correct?
It is. It's Cape Plumbago from South Africa.
And, you know, the umbrella that this creates is just really magnificent. I understand there's not a whole lot of pesticides used here at the rancho. Is that true?
That's absolutely true. In fact, in the rose garden, our chief horticulturalist was telling me just yesterday, he has hardly used any pesticides on those roses all year. The beds are cleaned up, the roses are cut back, and the ground is mulched. And we water appropriately here. We don't overwater like a lot of us tend to do in our suburban homes.
It's by need rather than schedule, correct?
Exactly so. These oleanders, for instance, really are very drought-tolerant plants, and so is the ivy, so we don't do a lot of watering in here.
So with no pesticides, this is not only a respite for humans, but for God's little creatures, the animals, the butterflies, and beautiful, beautiful area.
And we have a lot of all of those things here.
Now I see these look like Italian cypress.
They are. And this is a very different textural space to the one we were just in. There's a wonderful view up to the geranium walk and up to the house there.
So the steps just lead up to the geranium walk?
They do. And these little steps here lead into our cutting garden. And we think this may be one of the reasons that the cypress are here is to screen off that view, because it's a cutting garden. It's not always pretty. Shall we walk over there?
Absolutely. Okay, now this is going to be the cutting garden.
It is. This is the cutting garden. This is a place, Harvey, where we grow plants that we do use in the ranch house as decoration, just like Florence Bixby used to do way back many years ago.
So it has a practical purpose as well as a beautiful purpose.
A beautiful purpose. It's not very beautiful right now, unfortunately, but it's a cutting garden, and that's the very nature of it. It's winter now, so the garden is not as beautiful, perhaps, as it usually is.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but are there not almost all of the growing season represented from baking full sun almost to full shade over here where the calla lilies are? Those aren't calla lilies.
They are calla
lilies. They
lilies.
are calla lilies, aren't they?
Indeed. It's a wonderful place to grow things. We can grow things from almost all around the world, except if they need a cold winter, because we can't supply them with that. But those calla lilies are actually swamp plants from South Africa, so they like it in the shade.
Now, is this a hot tub?
No, it's not. We have a lot of guesses as to what it is. Some people say a barbecue. It's actually a cistern. And what Florence used to do, or her helpers used to do, is fill this with water from the garden hose when they were cutting plants to make arrangements. They would cut the plants and put them here in the water, and then they would keep them wet until they made the arrangements. And inside here, I don't know if you can see this, but inside here is a thing that holds the flowers together, and that's called a frog.
So
You hold the flowers up out of the water.
there's a frog in the well.
There's a frog in the well, indeed there is. And there's a valve here, so when you were done with it, you'd open this up and let the water run out, and it would water the garden. So it's very functional indeed.
Well, let's
Should we go
continue
this
on
way?
up this way. Now,
You watch your step here.
okay, look at the beautiful, beautiful poinsettias over here. They're in full bloom.
Aren't they wonderful?
Oh, yes.
Those are actually native to Mexico, not too far from here, and they're just growing wild here.
Now, this would have been the original entrance into the rancho, and these are the gates that one would go through
This is the front door.
as they came off 7th Street.
That's right. Where we originally came in was the back door, and this would have been the front door.
So this is where guests would be received, and
Uh-huh.
deliveries and friends probably would go through the back door.
That's right. And isn't this a wonderful front entryway?
Oh, isn't that?
It's a little more grand than mine at home.
You know, it's hard to believe that the ranch house started out as a little 4-room adobe house, and now it has what, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 18 rooms?
Uh-huh, it does indeed. In fact, before it was a little adobe house, this was actually a home of a Native American community, and it's hard to believe looking at this now, but this was basically just a grass hilltop. No trees.
The Tongvas?
The Tongva.
Or weren't they referred to as a Gabrielinos?
Gabrielino or the Tongva, it's true.
Now we're heading into what is known as the Friendly Garden, am I correct?
It is. And it's called that, it's a very friendly space, it's called that because this is where Florence Bixby used to garden herself. This is where she would put cuttings of things that her friends would give her. And so the plants that we have growing in here may not be the historic plants, but they're typical of that era.
Is this the Olmsted Brothers?
Yes, this was also the Olmsted Brothers. It's got that very formal shape, but they've softened the corners and made it a more friendly space.
This looks like an hourglass design with a brick walkway and planting areas around the fringes with the little reflecting pond in the middle. Now,
Right.
I know the figurine there is not historically accurate because I believe there used to be one there by a sculptress by the name of Harriet Frismuth, and it was called Play Day.
Exactly. And this is a very similar type of sculpture that a group of volunteers here at the Rancho had commissioned to replace the original sculpture. It's rather beautiful, isn't it?
It is. I think the original sculpture was a anniversary present from Fred to Florence at her request.
At her request, indeed. Shall we walk way on over there and you'll see a very different garden on the other side?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Now, I'm sure this would probably be a lot more colorful during the springtime when more flowers are in bloom, but it's so relaxing and beautiful just with the greenery.
It's true. Any time of year it's wonderful, any time. But it's true in the springtime, in the summer, there's a whole lot more in bloom.
And this is called what?
This is called the Jacaranda Walk, and it's called that because of these wonderful jacaranda trees that are growing along here. It also used to have another name, though. It used to be called the Adobe Walk, and the reason for that is the soil we're standing in. This is heavy adobe clay soil, and this is what the original Spanish immigrants used to create the house. They made adobe bricks out of this.
And what a great building material in a land that had little water and fewer trees.
Exactly, exactly. There was a little water down at the bottom of the hill. We had a natural spring, but that's exactly true. It was a little water.
Now, I think this also has some historical designation when the Indians lived here.
Way beyond before the Spanish came, the Native American community used to live on this hilltop, and this was their kitchen midden. This is where they threw their trash after
Which means it was a garbage dump.
That's exactly what it was. And we can see seashells and things in here right now, which is actual tangible evidence of those people that lived here about 3,000 more years ago.
And I think this is one of the gardens that really reflects Florence Bixby because the jacarandas are blue. On this side you have the blue wisteria. You have the blue pots down at the end. All of this represents the blue sky and blue, which was Florence's favorite color.
Her favorite color indeed, and reflect on all of those.
All right, don't go away. We'll be right back with more Long Beach Treasures.
Meeting in Long Beach has never been grander. Whether you need space for 10 guests or 1,000, The Grand at Willow Street Center will accommodate them in elegance that meets your high standards. After all, we serve your party one guest at a time. Plan your own function in the comfort of your home by visiting our website at www.thegrand.net. The Grand at Willow Street Center, just off the Lakewood South off-ramp of the 405 freeway. Call today for your free brochure.
We made one phone call, they were out in 2 days. When they came in, my wife said it was great. They came in and basically showed her what they were doing because they redo the computer and they hooked all the boxes up. They were great, clean, efficient, but the channels that you have on, I never knew there were so many different Discovery channels. You have them all. So a lot of people go to the satellite dishes and stuff. You have it all. I mean, Charter Cable has everything that suffices my needs and my family needs. It's very easy to use. That's been great. What makes Paulie's different?
Well, first of all, his coffee is fresh roasted 1,000 miles from Seattle, so we like to have coffee that's fresher and tastes better.
We carry about 70 varieties of coffee. But the thing that I believe makes Paulie's special is the people who work at Paulie's. We're a neighborhood store. We're your family store. We know you, you know us. We'll take care of you.
We were voted the #1 coffee house in Long Beach in the recent Press Telegram poll.
Paulie's Gourmet Coffee. Doesn't get any better than this.
30 years ago, Jacques Cousteau warned us that the ocean was in peril. We dump too much in it and we extract too much from it. Sea otters and other marine mammals are going extinct, and we ought to protect them. Support marine protected areas. Show up at the next series of public comments. Let your voice be heard. Support marine protected areas.
Okay, welcome back. We're now going to go down and see the cactus garden. Now, I think this started out as an experiment.
It did, Harvey. Actually, this was another piece of vacant property out here. And Fred Bixby thought that he might be able to develop some thornless cactus to feed his cattle. And his plant-loving wife, that experiment failed, so his plant-loving wife developed this wonderful garden with the assistance of William Hertrick. Hertrick is pretty well known for having designed and managed the cactus garden at the Huntington Botanical Garden.
Now, you said he wanted to have this as a source of water for his animals.
Cattle feed.
Yeah, these were on his ranches in Arizona, right?
On his ranches in Arizona, and he also had cattle coming here, too.
Now, this is a prickly pear.
It is.
And this, I understand, the tongva, there was a delicacy for him?
The tongva and also the Mexican community as well. In fact, it's still used by a lot of people in the area. These little red, these are the seed pods that come after the blooms, and these are called las tunas, and they're usually made into sweet things like jams and jellies.
Now, I noticed you touched that. Isn't your fingers full of small little
I know
stickers?
I know where to touch it. I touched it between those things. Don't try this at home.
I know.
And this down here, this is nopales or nopalitos. It's cut, chopped, and sautéed, and also used in dishes. Very, very good.
I know the missions used to use these as fences. Some of them grew, what, 20 feet tall, 12 feet wide? And
at least.
With the prickly pear there and the stickers, it was a great barricade for not only man, but animals also.
It's true. In fact, this plant over here, which is an agave, is just as good, if not better, a barricade. You would not walk through that plant.
Speaking of agaves, I want to point out this one here because it's close and it's easy to get to. If you notice here at the tip, if I'm not mistaken, the Indians used to use these as needles, did they not?
They could, and also there's a fiber that goes continuously through, and it could draw the thread right through with it, so they could sew things together.
So this was the early Singer sewing machine?
It was. It was. There's
And
also another interesting use for that.
I know it.
You do?
Tequila.
All right. That's right. Agave, that's what agave is used for making.
All right. I think there's another little area down here that is a garden within a garden.
Oh, you want to see the shell garden?
I do.
Follow me. I'll show you. Okay.
All right. This is a compact little area. And this, I think, Florence designed so that she could show her abalone shells and Unfortunately, I think these were Pismo clamshells, which have been, over the years, broken off.
Yes, this whole little area is called a shell garden. And you'll notice the wonderful abalone shells all the way around the outside. This little bench is also in the shape of a shell, and if you look from up above, this whole garden is in the shape of a shell.
Oh, it is, isn't
Isn't that
it?
wonderful?
And I think these shells came from their ranch out there by Point Conception, their Coho.
That's right, the Coho Ranch, which is still owned by the Bixby family, at least
Oh,
part
is
of
it?
It is.
Oh.
But it
You
was
know-
in memory of her son.
This is just such typical of the gardens here. There's a nice little bench where you can come, sit, relax, read, get a whole new perspective on life. It just rejuvenates one.
It does, it certainly does.
And so let's go look at, I think, what is called the old garden, or no, we're going to the native garden.
The native garden is right next here, but I think we'll go around that way. It is under renovation
Right.
right now. We're restoring the native garden.
All right.
But let's go this way.
Now this is under restoration, and completion date, any idea?
Oh, we're not sure, but soon. You can look forward to it. We are currently excavating all of these ponds that we didn't even know were here.
Now I understand that this was basically created because Mrs. Bixby was afraid of horses, never did learn to ride, and she never went out riding with Fred and the daughters, and so when they would go out and come back and tell her all the great things they saw in the wild country, she created this so that she could see what they saw.
That sounds, well, like what could have happened. She lived here on this ranch with all these horses, and apparently she never did learn to ride. The interesting thing about this garden, well, there are many interesting things, but this is a native garden, and these are mostly native California species. Not 100%, but pretty much. And back in the 1920s, not many people were interested in native California species.
You know, I notice also a lot of statuary plaques that have a religious connotation, and I've never heard anything about the Bixbys being unduly religious or Catholic. Would this, you think, because so much of these symbols seem to deal with Catholicism, if this might be because of their Hispanic ranch hands?
I think it may well have been, and I understand that the ranch hands who did help in the construction here were free to come and roam around some of the gardens on Sunday when it was their day off, and a lot of these would be also typical of the Spanish mission period, a history that she also was interested in following.
Okay, you pointed out earlier the trees.
The tree. Do you want to go see the trees?
I do.
Okay.
Now these two giant Moreton Bay fig trees probably must have been Susan Bixby's most dramatic statement here at the Rancho, would you say?
I would certainly agree with that, Harvey. They were planted probably about 100 years ago, and these trees will get bigger. They're not fully grown yet.
Wow, and they're related to what?
They're Ficus macrophylla. They're related to the banyan tree. They're related to that little ficus tree you might have in your living room, and to edible figs as well.
And this would be very typical of Victorian gardens during the turn of the century?
Yes, it would. And don't forget, when these were planted, there wasn't much shade up there here on the hill, and she was trying to create shade. I think she did a good job.
And she evidently didn't realize how big they were going to get, because if you notice, she planted a palm tree in front of each fig tree, and they're growing right up through the branches.
It's true. In fact, they're even bending over that way a little bit to get the light.
Boy, a plumber's delight.
Could be.
Let's go see the old garden, the last
Okay.
garden. Okay, this is the music room patio, which leads down to the old garden.
The old garden, yes. And it's called that because it's the area under cultivation for the longest length of time. Isn't this a wonderful fountain down here?
Oh yes, and the texture with the different colors and the different trees. No flowers, but just the texture of the colors and trees are just really striking.
Mostly green, yes. The bananas are beautiful, and the big giant timber bamboo back there.
And this is where it all started.
This is the place the garden started. This is the first shade tree, we believe, on this property. And it was a California pepper tree. And we believe it was planted by Abel Stearns, who owned this property way back in the early, mid-1800s.
1841 to 1856.
Indeed.
1865.
You know your history. So we believe he planted this tree. It was planted during his period of time. And looking around us now, it's hard to believe this would have been the very first shade tree on this hilltop.
Can you believe that tree was planted before the Civil War?
It's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Unbelievable.
This wasn't even the United States then.
And this is where they used to entertain with the benches, and I've seen pictures with serapes over the arms and aguaves in pots, and just a beautiful place to entertain.
Unfortunately, the tree met its demise probably from old age.
And it will be replanted?
It will be replaced with a tree that we've already selected that looks like this tree.
Oh, good. Gosh, this is just such a beautiful, beautiful place.
Glad you're enjoying it. We love it here.
I have one more thing that I have to go see, and that's Big John.
Big John, come on this way.
Okay. You know, if I ever had a really bad day, I think to lift my spirits, I would just grab a good book, a sandwich, come up and sit in the gardens and just relax and be reborn.
It would be a good place to do that. And here's a fellow who would make you feel even happier just visiting with
Big
him.
John. Big John here weighs in about 2,000 pounds. He's a Belgian draft horse, and he is about 24 years old. And he's sort of symbolizes life here at the ranch. He's a beautiful old horse. I love Big John.
We all do.
He has a partner, Penny. I guess she's probably back in the stall there somewhere.
I haven't seen Penny today. She's probably over there, yes.
Okay.
But
Barbara, I want to thank you so much for touring with me here at the Rancho today. I've enjoyed it. I'm sure our viewers will. And it's just such a remarkable place. I can't believe there are so many people in Long Beach who don't know that the Rancho is here.
there are. In fact, I didn't know myself until I came here with a plant class one time many years ago. I love the place, and please come on back.
Oh, I encourage everybody to come on up and see this really, truly remarkable historical place. And don't forget, the Rancho is open Wednesday through Sundays from 1 to 5 p.m. You can come up and roam through the gardens by yourself and on your own, but a tour of the house and the barnyard area, you have to have a docent. So please come up and see what a beautiful historic site we have here at Rancho Los Alamitos. I don't often have time to thank you for all the nice things you say to me and all of the response I get from you. I'm glad so many of the viewers enjoy Long Beach Treasures, because certainly I enjoy bringing it to you. So this is Harvey Keller signing off, and come back again next month and we'll uncover more Long Beach treasures. Hello and welcome to another edition of Long Beach Treasures. I'm your host, Harvey Keller. Today we're going to be touring one of the 14 historical districts in the city of Long Beach. Carroll Park is our district of choice, and joining me today is Paula Nathan, who is the homeowner, or is the president of the Carroll Park Neighborhood Association. Welcome, Paula.
Hi, welcome to Carroll Park, Harvey.
Give me your boundaries.
We are bounded by Junipero, 4th Street, 3rd Street, and Carroll Park East.
And this was developed basically by John Carroll in the early 1900s?
Yes, it was the first planned community, and originally this area was an olive grove, and the streets were planned to be curved.
Because?
So the farmers coming from downtown to market could not cut through Carroll Park, and it could be a peaceful place for the homeowners here.
And his beautiful home was located very close to us, right?
Yes, unfortunately, it's where that parking lot is now located now. It was torn down to make way for the church.
And I believe the church bought it in 1946 for $35,000.
Yes, a very reasonable cost.
And tore it down in 1957 and made a beautiful parking lot.
That's correct.
I guess that gives us a reason why we have preservation in the city of Long Beach, so that we can protect some of these significant historical treasures that we have.
That's right, and we're culturally protected now, and it helps for a lot of the modifications of the homes to keep with original intent.
All right, let's go look at some of the places and get some of the history of Cara Park. So let's go this way.
Okay.
Okay, Paula, let's go check this one out. I think this is a Spanish colonial revival.
Mission Revival, 1922. Really
beautiful home.
In Carroll Park.
Come on, let's go on in.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Terry.
How are you?
Hi, Terry. I'm Harvey.
I'm Terry, and this is my sister Beverly. And
Hi, Beverly. Dan. Thank you for letting us join you in your beautiful home here. When was it built?
1922. I understand at that time it was one story, and it was built for $15,000, I understand.
Wow, what a deal. Would you sell it for that today?
Yeah, it was listed for 600. 9.5. Yeah. This staircase is, you could hardly tell that it was added up to the second floor.
So that's an addition.
Right.
Oh.
So it's original wrought iron, and we've tried to keep the house in its original form.
Who's the pianist?
I am.
Well,
I play classical piano.
Good. This is a beautiful front room. Beautiful beveled glass on the doors. I especially like this arch door.
This arch door is copied by the Long Beach State Art Department quite a few times. I see several copies in town of it now, but this is the original one.
Can we take a peek in the dining room here?
Of course.
You have to be close to the mic.
Oh, this was bought in 1970. I bought the house in '73, and I bought it from Newport Beach.
That's a beautiful piece of furniture.
Yeah, at the actually we assembled it. This looks like the same, but I found them in different locations.
And this looks like a neat little nook in here.
This is all original built-ins.
Is that all Porterson oak?
This is all mahogany. This is mahogany. The floors are mahogany. The this is original. This will actually let up. We have wood pieces cut so that this is a bar for parties.
Oh. Okay.
So it makes a nice little area for that. The kitchen is pretty much original. This is copies of the original anyway. You can see that it's newer, but my sister lived here for 3.5 years. She had this done with a nice woman's touch. I thought it was nice.
I know you have some original bathrooms. Could we take a peek at one of those? Okay, now these are the original tiles?
Actually, they're copies of the original tiles. This was built in 22. All of the tiles were copied as they were. This is the original sink, and this is an original fixture. This is a copy of how the wood was, but as you can see, I put in a tub that has little spigots so you can take a spa.
Oh.
But we always try to keep things as they were. Now this bedroom has only been changed in that the door originally.
You have to be very close.
Okay. The original door was right here, and you had to crawl through the whole thing to use it. So we put in TV and we put in organizers and that kind of thing, so it makes it a little more useful. But the room, most of it is like it was. Well, we had to copy that molding because they don't make it anymore. So our contractor was kind enough to actually shave all that down and do it just like it was. And then I had this. Okay. This is a computer setup with a desk that pulls down and out, and you can actually use this for a bedroom if you needed to. So we have 3 bedrooms and this room, which could be a bedroom.
What's the square footage of your home?
24.
2,400.
2430, I think. It looks bigger from the outside than it is.
This was a custom build too. Our contractor actually designed and built the computer cabinets and the matching bookshelves because it's an odd-shaped bedroom. So this was much more functional for us to have a home office here to store our books and such. 2 computers set up, so it's worked out very nicely.
Well, and because of time, we're going to have to run, but I want to thank you for letting us come and see your house.
This is an original piece that came in 22. This weighs about 80 pounds.
Wow.
So it was in the dining rooms, but I like our chandelier.
Be dangerous in time of an earthquake, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't want to be under it, no.
This is a beautiful fireplace. Are these Batchelder tiles, do you know?
I think they are, and this is these are hand-carved musicians on both sides, as you can see. This is a musician playing a stringed instrument, and these are cymbals and shaking percussion instruments.
And these are original to the house?
Yes, except this. This was matched to the fireplace because this was an unvented fireplace in 22. So you can't have that, it's not legal. So we had to vent it, and our contractor matched this tile with the original tile very beautifully.
He sure did. It's a very close match.
So we're very pleased with it.
Well, again, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you.
Your home is beautiful.
Well, thank you.
Paula, I believe this is the oldest house in Carroll Park. Is that correct?
This is a 1903 Queen Anne house. It was the first of the houses that was built when the development started.
And the architect was?
J.W. Burgin, who built several homes in Carroll Park and was very prominent in Long Beach.
And this is really quite a small home, isn't it?
Yeah, it's modest. There are several different sizes and styles in Carroll Park, which we'll see on our tour.
Neat little house, though.
Thanks.
Paul, I know there's an eclectic mix of homes here in the Carroll Park district. Behind us is probably one of the most popular, the California Bungalow. And even though this is a modest home by some of the standards of some of the other homes in the neighborhood, I think this has a distinct, something distinct about it.
Yeah, what's special about this house was built in 1921, like you said, California Bungalow. This was Dr. Boyd's original residence, and he was the chief of staff at St. Mary's Hospital and also the founder of St. Mary's, and this is where he lived.
So it's quite a modest home for somebody who was so prominent at that time.
Yes, but this was a very sought-after neighborhood with a lot of doctors who lived here, so he was probably very at home here.
Attorneys, prominent people, which really is still the same today.
Yes, very much so.
Let's go on down and look at some more.
Okay.
Okay, this is another example of another type of architecture here. This is an airplane-styled house. That's because it has a low flat roof, and the second story is much smaller, and it almost looks like the cockpit of an airplane.
Right, and there's a very similar example. These two are both airplane-style houses.
And I believe you told me this was built in 1919?
Yes, and the one next door is 1918.
And it's the style of the one next door is?
This one right here is a Mediterranean revival. It has a little more oomph to it than the one next door.
It's sort of hard to see because of all the foliage around.
Yeah, gives it a little extra Mediterranean flair.
It's an unusual color, but I guess that's a very Mediterranean type of color scheme,
right,
isn't it?
And the door really adds to that.
It's a beautiful house, even though it's hidden.
Mm-hmm. And right next door, we have another California bungalow that some of you may have seen in the movie Karina Karina.
Ah, this is where Karina Karina was filmed, huh?
And Whoopi Goldberg used this as her house in the movie, and the interiors were also shot, which you can see the beautiful moldings that exist in the house.
Did they
today.
change the house at all for the
They came in and they planted a lawn and they painted it yellow and added rose bushes and lots of things like that.
So the owner made out.
Yeah, they did. And from here you can see a lot of the many beautiful houses we have in Carroll Park and how diverse it is and our beautiful vegetation. And you can also see a view of our smallest park, which is sort of a banana tropical park. And
now Carroll did donate 4 plots of land to be used as parks in Carroll Park.
Yes, and that is one of them. And we're standing in front of a Craftsman Chalet.
This is a beautiful home.
It's one of the larger homes in Carroll Park.
Built when?
I believe it's
1907, as a matter of fact. I just had it in my notes.
Sorry.
I think this house just sold, did it not?
Yes, it did. It has new residents. It's beautiful inside and out.
Wish it were my home. Okay, we're on Carroll Park South, heading towards Carroll Park West, right?
Yes.
And here is a charming little bungalow here. What is the style of architecture on this?
This is a 1919 colonial bungalow, colonial revival bungalow. And the same family lived here for much of its existence. It was bought from the grandmother and then the granddaughter lived here.
And this was J.W. Burgeon design also,
Correct,
was it not?
Correct.
I wonder if the owner would let us knock on the door and go in and maybe take a quick peek.
Well, let's see.
All right, let's do it.
Hi, Tom.
Hi, Tom. Can we come in and take a quick peek at your house?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Now, what style is this?
This is called Colonial Craftsman. It's a little bit later than the other Craftsman, around late teens, early 20s.
Looks like you still have all of your original floors with the thinner slats.
They're all original.
Those are beautiful. Did you refinish them?
They were refinished, yes.
Are the posts original to the house?
As far as I know, the columns are original. They do match the front.
And I see you have many beautiful Craftsman pieces in here, too.
Oh, we do.
Now, you are in the construction business?
I do kitchens.
Kitchens, ah. So anyone who needs a kitchen done, they need to call Tom Hines.
They could find me. I think they could call you.
All right, they can call me and I'll call you.
There you go.
Beautiful house. Can we walk in just
Absolutely,
a little further?
Absolutely, sure.
Oh, what a neat sun porch.
Thanks. That was added in 1920.
Already 1920? How did your house fare during the 1933 earthquake? Do you have any idea?
I wasn't here, but I think it came through okay. Yeah.
Most of the homes in Carroll Park did all right.
Yeah, I think they tend to move. You know, the wooden frame would tend to move.
Well, thank you for letting us pop in and see your house. We're just going down Carroll Park and trying to see as many of the beautiful interiors as we possibly can because this is such a unique neighborhood.
Oh, it's wonderful.
So thank you.
I love it here. Thank you, Harvey.
Hey, Harvey, now we're on 3rd Street.
And this has to be one of the most unique homes in Carroll Park.
This is a very unique home. It's a Hansel and Gretel period revival. It's 1926, and they're putting on a very special roof.
And I believe this is Steve Fuller, who is the roof artist who's doing the roof.
Thanks a lot. Hi.
Describe it for us.
Well, originally, about 67 years ago, it had a regular, a wave roof, about half the material, but so it had to be redone, so we just kind of took it to a different level, like twice the material with a little more color and designs and stuff like that. It's my 39th one.
And now how long does it take to do a roof like this?
They're hand carved with a razor blade and hand nailed, so usually around 4 months.
Wow.
Yeah, around 4 months.
So you put your heart and soul into each and every one of these?
Yeah, a lot of stitches and stuff like that too, so.
Do you come up with the designs yourself?
Yeah, I just make the design up as I go. Usually the customer's seen some of the other work I've done, so I kind of know what they like and what they don't like, you know, by the time we start nailing. So I work with them.
And how much more do you have on this roof?
Actually, I got about another week. Got kind of lucky. Got a Home and Garden TV show out of it too down the road next week. So,
oh, really?
Like, this is my lucky. Long Beach has been real good to me, so I love Long Beach.
Well, it's really unique. The home is unique, and with the leaded glass windows, the rolled roof, it's just it's really a spectacular home.
Hey, thanks. I hope it lasts another 67 years. I'm trying to put it on that way, so.
A roof to last 67 years.
The other one did. Yeah, the other one did. So I mean, even if I'm trying to put it on just as good as they did it as the old timers did it. So all hand carved and hand nailed.
I doubt if I interview you when you put on the next one.
I don't think I'll be re-roofing it, to be honest with you.
Steve, thank you so much for letting us stop by and look at your great creation.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right.
Appreciate it. Bye, guys.
Paula, this is a great shot of Carroll Park. Would you explain a little bit about it?
This is really considered our main park. It's the largest plot of land with the most trees, and a lot of the homes are centered around it, sort of facing it to really give yourself a nature coming into your house. It's a beautiful vista.
What a quiet neighborhood.
Yeah, it's sort of Norman Rockwellian.
Really wonderful. Okay, Paula, give me a little bit of history on this house, the style of architecture.
Now, this house is on Junipero. It's a craftsman chalet. It's approximately 1903.
And I believe this home was bought by Mr. and Mrs. C.J. Walker, Mr. and Mrs. John Carroll, and a wealthy Easterner, Mrs. Jeannie A. Reeves, who bought this home for Miss Elizabeth Benton Fremont, known as Lily, the daughter of John C. Fremont, and she was in dire straits, so they bought this home that she would have a place to live out her life. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. She lived here from 1904 to 1907, and her father was a prominent businessman in Long Beach, John C. Fremont.
He was a politician, he was an explorer, he was many things.
Mm-hmm.
It's a cute little house.
He's done a lot of work to restore it. It was in need of a lot of repair, and he's done a beautiful job.
It's so nice to see when people take an interest in restoring their homes to their former glory so that it almost looks like you walk back into time.
That's what cultural heritage is all about.
Don't go away. We'll be right back with more Long Beach Treasures.
We made one phone call. They were out in 2 days. And they came in. My wife said it was great. They came in and basically showed her what they were doing because they redo the computer and they hooked all the boxes up. They were great, clean, efficient, but the channels that you have on, I never knew there were so many different Discovery channels. You have them all. So a lot of people go to the satellite dishes and stuff. You have it all. I mean, Charter Cable has everything that suffices my needs and my family needs. It's very easy to use. And that's been great.
Carol, you have a beautiful home here. Tell me something about it.
Oh, it's a joy to live in. I've been here almost 9 years, and it's been a project. I'm always doing something to enhance it. But it's got wonderful basic features such as the beams up above, the hand-hewn beams, and all the arches. So, such a wonderful Spanish home. And
the atrium out there is just delightful.
yeah, that's a lot of fun. So this room is, you know, darker and moodier, and then when you want to really feel like you're in the garden, you go out there, and it's a fun room.
Just another example of some of the beautiful architecture here in Carroll Park. There's so many unique homes that I just may have to move over here.
Well,
your house is for sale, by the way.
I was going to hand you a brochure.
$1 down, $1 a month?
Right.
Thank you, Carol, for letting us take a quick peek.
Well, you're welcome.
Paula, this has to be one of the most spectacular homes here in Carroll Park. I've always wanted to see inside, and today I think we may get a chance.
I think so. It's one of the largest homes in Carroll Park. It's a 1913 Craftsman bungalow, and it's just spectacular inside and out. It's been kept very much to its original appearance.
It is quite large, isn't it?
It's over 3,000 square feet.
Wow. And I've always admired this house, as I'm sure many people have as they pass by it here.
It's literally a cornerstone of Carroll Park, right? It's right on the corner of Carroll Park North and Junipero.
Wow. Let's go in and see if we can get a peek inside.
Okay, let's go. Hi, Mr. O'Connell.
Hi, Mr. O'Connell. I'm Harvey Keller with Long Beach Treasures. Thank you for letting us come in and see your beautiful home.
I'm very happy to do that.
Now, I think originally this was probably a doctor's home, and this was probably the reception area, and this was his office. Right. Look at the beautiful woodwork, and look at the beautiful beveled glass windows there. How marvelous this is.
It's all quarter-sawn oak.
And look at the craftsman-style staircase going up to the second floor.
Yeah,
the wood in here is absolutely spectacular.
The staircase has beautiful craftsman-style stickwork on it that is absolutely original to the home.
Let's go in and look at the dining room and the front parlor.
Okay.
Because I think we have a surprise in there, don't we? Oh, what beautiful pocket doors. Oh. This is a very original craftsman fireplace with the very plain mantel and all the wood on each side. What a beautiful, beautiful fireplace.
And this dining room is really the jewel of Carroll Park. It's just spectacular with, once again, all quarter-sawn oak, original hardware, very large in scale.
Look at the length of that hutch.
And the original pocket doors, original lighting fixtures on the top. It's really beautiful. The chandelier has been replaced, but it could easily be switched to a...
What a beautiful house. I love the little tulip lights on each corner of the ceiling up there. Those are really nice. This is indeed a Long Beach treasure. What is quarter-sawn oak?
Quarter-sawn oak is a way of cutting the wood so you see more the beauty of the grain.
Slice it out of that.
Oh, they cut the log in quarters and then slice it?
Yes, yeah.
And how long have you lived here?
Since 1969.
Oh. So you're a newcomer.
Right.
Well, your home is beautiful, and I want to thank you for letting us pop in
thank
just
you.
to see it.
It's a pleasure to let you
I
see
live
it.
very close by, and I walked by this house so many times, and I said, I've always wanted to come and knock on your door and say, could I just take a peek? And now I had the opportunity, so I thank you.
Well, I'm happy to give you the opportunity to do that. Yeah, I'm glad. Thanks for your interest.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Paula, this is a unique home that we're looking at right now. What do you know about it?
This house is very unusual, not only for Carroll Park, but for Southern California in general. It's a period revival clinker brick dwelling, also built by J.W. Burgin. We've seen several of his homes today. It's 1932.
It almost has some Tudor principles to it, without the high gable roofs, but the clinker brick sort of reminds me of a Tudor-style home.
Yeah, or a really old colonial in Salem or something like that. Very, very interesting.
Another unique style of home here in Carroll Park.
Mm-hmm.
This home is secluded by this large pine tree, but it looks like it's a vintage home.
It's beautiful, 1907 Queen Anne home. They've added a Japanese garden, which lends very well to the craftsman style because there's a little bit of Asian influence to the home with the little roof line. And they have an original sun porch, and they've repainted in original craftsman colors to really restore the house in a beautiful manner.
And it looks like it would be a low-maintenance yard, even though it has a Japanese influence.
A lot of raking is what the homeowner tells me.
And you're right, in the craftsman-style home, there was, starting with the Green and Green, who really was the start of the craftsman bungalow, had a lot of Japanese influence in their design. Look at the Gamble House in Pasadena, the Teichner House up on Ocean Boulevard.
Right, it was very prevalent in the Craftsman era to do an Asian influence in the Japanese style.
I hope people in Long Beach will come down and see your wonderful Carroll Park, because it's just so unique and it's so quiet. The eclectic mix of homes, you know, it's still an upscale neighborhood, but yet it's not a pretentious neighborhood.
No, we've enjoyed living here very much, and it's just a beautiful place to be.
This looks like another rather large Craftsman-style home.
Yes, this is a Craftsman Chalet home, 1906. It's a 1.5 story. The owner found a piece of this fence in his garage and recreated it to be the original fence around the property.
What kind of posts are those? Is that a particular kind of stone?
Those are, I believe, stone posts, which is a little bit unusual for Carroll Park, but are certainly beautiful with the house.
Okay, well, let's go check out something else.
Okay.
All right, this is sort of like a Craftsman, but it's not really a Craftsman.
This is farmhouse style with Craftsman Chalet influence, mostly because of the long front porch, which is perfect for a swing, which he has. And it was built in 1910.
You know, I read somewhere that in 1933, when we had the earthquake here in Long Beach, that there was a lot of damage in Carroll Park, and that some of the neighbors or owners here lived in their backyard for months while their homes were being reconstructed. Members who who were Navy families moved aboard ship and lived there for a period of time. And I think you can show us an example of one of the damages that the earthquake did.
Most homes fared pretty well, but as you can see on this house originally had a fireplace, and it fell down in the 33 quake, and you can see the outline of where it used to be.
Paula, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I think Carroll Park is a fantastic area, and I hope the citizens of Long Beach will come by and see what a treasure you have here in Carroll Park. So thank you so much. And before I leave you, I would like to mention that Long Beach Heritage is going to have their annual banquet on the Queen Mary on February 21st. No host bar at 6 o'clock, dinner beginning at 7 o'clock. This is the one time during the year that Long Beach Heritage gets to recognize individuals who have made a significant contribution to the preservation of the cultural heritage of Long Beach. We give out merit awards, preservation award, and the Preservationist of the Year award, and this year the Preservationist of the Year is Charlotte Mitchell. So join us again next month as we take another walk through history and uncover more Long Beach treasures. Hello and welcome to another Editions of Long Beach Treasures. I'm your host, Harvey Keller. Today we're going to take another look at the historic Walker Building, now under construction, being turned into lofts. We thought we'd start up here at the top of the Farmers and Merchants Tower building to give you a different perspective of the building before we go down and look at it up close. So if you're ready, follow me and we'll go across the street and we'll look at the Walker Building. Joining me now are the two architects of the building here, Gary Lamb and John Glasgow of Interstices. Gentlemen, what is your concept for the design of this building?
Well, some of the issues we were dealing with on the building was very dilapidated over the years, and conceptually we just wanted to take the building back to what it was in the 30s. The crenellations had been taken off in the 50s or 60s, which are the elements that are on top of the building, and a lot of the concrete sculptural work, the finials and the medallions between the second floor and the third floor had been taken off. So we restored those, and actually just trying to get the building, like I said, back to its 1930 feeling. And with the new penthouses, we have 7 new penthouses on top, and the penthouses step well back from the 4th Street and Pine Avenue faces of the building, so as when you're at the street level, you really don't notice that they're there.
John, how many units?
There's 46 units in the entire building. There's 39 within the base original building, and then there's 7 penthouses on the roof.
And now you also did the crest lofts?
Yes, we did that about 8 years ago, and it's been very successful.
How are the sales going on this building?
Very well. From what I understand, they're about 90% sold at this point.
Okay, I want to go in just a moment, but before I do, I want to introduce Michelle Bridges. Michelle is a architectural color consultant, and you're the ones who you are the one who selected the colors for this building. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
And how did you come up with this color scheme?
Well, in terms of my perspective from the job, I talked to the architects John and Gary here, and we kind of got an idea of how we wanted the building to look. And at the original point of it, it was all concrete, and we wanted to have that same feeling. We didn't want to add color onto this building, but we did want to accentuate all of the architectural elements, the crenellations that were added on top, the finials that are in between each window bay, the medallions, everything that we have restored on this building, we wanted to accentuate, again, without making it vibrate between colors. So we basically went back to a taupey, creamy color, kind of relishing a concrete-based look of the building. And we have approximately 4 different colors on this building as you look at it from the exterior.
Now, will the exterior colors be carried over into the interior?
The exterior colors will actually be carried up into the penthouse. The base of the building color will be there, but we will be having an additional color added onto the penthouses, as that is new construction, and we did want to have that feel a little bit separate from the original building. As far as the interior colors, you will have the same concept of the concrete filling throughout each of the lofts, but it will not be these exact colors that are on the outside, but you will get the same feeling as being from the inside to the outside of the building. We do have some elements that will be pulled through. Flooring will be pulled through on the penthouses from the exterior into the interior of the houses, so there will be many elements that were pulled through to help that.
All right, let's go in and see what it looks like from the inside out.
Alrighty.
Okay, now behind us is the canopy. Is this original?
Yes, actually what we just did a few weeks ago was to take off the signage that had all been added in the 40s and 50s, and back behind all of that was the original canopy from the 1929 design. So we're restoring that.
Gary, what's going to be down in the bottom floor?
There's approximately 17,000 square feet of retail space, so ideally it'd be great for an incredible restaurant down here on the first floor.
But no leases have been signed at this time?
Not that I'm aware of.
Can we go in and look around inside?
Sure, let's go in.
Okay. Okay, Gary, these are a couple of the details that you have replicated. These are the crenellations and the medallions. Tell us about them.
Well, the crenellation, the large inset panel that you see here, this was taken from the original drawings and from photographs and completely recreated by a craftsman. It took about 2.5 months just to create this large item out of clay. And then it was cast in plaster, and then all the concrete molds were done. And there are approximately, I think there are like 49 of these around the top of the building. And they weigh around probably 400 pounds each. So it's a really big feat to get these back on the building. And the smaller ones you see are actually on another part of the crenellations. There are 3 different designs, but same. These are all also created from the original drawings and photographs.
Now, these were all taken down over the years?
I think in the course of modernization in the 50s, 60s, and I think the parapet was originally unreinforced brick, so they probably had to take that off for seismic reasons. And we've since poured it back in concrete, and it's extremely well anchored to the building and was at a great expense to get this back on top of the building.
That's quite an undertaking to replicate all of these crenellations and put it all around the building.
It was quite incredible, but from the start, Bill Limborg, the developer, has really been insisting that this is one of the main features that really needs to go back on the building, and I think you'll see from outside it really adds a certain element to the building.
Could we go look at one of the units?
Sure.
Let's go. John, this is going to be one of the typical kitchens in these units?
Yes, this is representative of the cabinets. This is not the full kitchen, but this is the cabinet style that we're putting in the standard units. The glass cabinets up above, we're actually using some of the original glass from the transom panels of the original building. The commercial style stoves come with the units, the built-in microwaves, built-in dishwashers, all that sort of thing.
That's a heavy-duty stove.
Oh yes, it's a six burner DCS gas-fired range.
And sitting on the counter there, this is a mock-up or a model of what one of the penthouses is going to look like?
That's correct. That's the #1 penthouse, and there will be 7 of them up there, and they're all pretty much similar in style.
How many square feet in the penthouse?
They're about 2,000 up to about 2,500 square feet. But they have a lot of two-story space also, so there's a lot of volume within that square footage.
And behind us here, this is a model of what the Walker Building is going to look like when it's all completed with all of the penthouses up top?
That's correct. And that is looking from the corner of Pine and 4th.
Boy, from outside, you really cannot see the penthouses. It just looks like the original building minus the penthouses.
Right.
Let's go and look at one of the lofts.
Okay, let's go.
Gary, these are really high ceilings.
Yes, they're about 14 feet, which is a really nice, since it was a department store, really, really high ceilings.
You know, I'm noticing one thing that I'm really impressed with. It seems like you're recycling a lot of the old materials. This floor looks like it's going to be recycled.
It certainly is. This used to be the old department store floor that was on the 4th floor of the building. So when demolition started, all the flooring was salvaged, stored in the basement, and now all the units on the 2nd floor are receiving the old wood flooring. It will be refinished, but that's our whole purpose, is really to try to take as much of the old character of the building, like the windows at the far side and the flooring, and just really keep those and integrate those as much as possible into the new lofts.
Now these columns are integrated into the loft itself, right?
Yep, these are the old structural columns, and they had plaster on them originally as well as the ceiling, and we sandblasted and then water blasted all the plaster off to get back to the original board-formed concrete finish, which we're really trying to contrast the old finish of the concrete with the new finish of the drywall walls.
It really gives it a unique look, especially the one there between the windows. To incorporate that into the decor of the loft is quite dramatic.
Right, we're really trying to, in all the lofts, have at least 2 freestanding columns, so you really, work with the columns when you're in your space. You really feel like you're part of the building, and you kind of just integrate with the columns.
And the square footage in this would be about?
This unit's approximately 1,500 square feet.
Well, that's still a good-sized unit. Let's go in and look at the bath area and the kitchen area where it's going to be.
Okay.
I assume this is going to be the bathroom.
Yes, most of the bathrooms are about the same size. They're about 9 feet by 12 feet, and they all are going to have a tub and a fairly large shower. And there are options to do jacuzzi tubs. And if you notice the floor in here, these units on the 2nd floor have concrete floors in the closets, the kitchens, and the bathrooms. And we've added windows at the corner of the shower to bring in some natural light that opens up to the rest of the space. And we've tried as much as possible to integrate the windows on the exterior of the building into the bathrooms and into the units themselves to really give a nice quality of light in the space.
Did you or Michelle select the colors of tiles for the baths?
We selected several colors of tile for the tower. If you see the tower, it separates the shower from the tub, right. And then the homeowners can come in and select one of the tiles that we've chosen.
So it's not necessarily going to be this color?
No, there's several options.
And the kitchen is going to be, is that right across the hallway here?
Well, the kitchen's back out into the main space, but right across the hallway is the walk-in closet, which we really tried to learn from when we did the Crest building. It was really basic lofts, but this one we've actually included walk-in closets in all the units.
Now, this area right here is...
This is the laundry room. There'll be a couple of sliding doors here, so your washer, dryer, and some storage.
And then the kitchen will be incorporated out here into this area back here?
Right. The kitchen works into the main space, and it's a fairly large kitchen. It's around 9 feet by 15 feet. And this will have a really big island in the middle. You can see where the two lights are hanging. The island is approximately a 4-foot by 8-foot island over, in this part of the kitchen.
John, it seems like there are an awful lot of lofts being built in the downtown area. What do you attribute the popularity of loft living in downtown to?
I think that you see a lot of it in the movies and in television, and it gives a homeowner or a renter a lot more options in how to live in their own space. I think there's a lot of people living their lives a little bit differently than how they grew up, and they like to be able to move their bed from here to here, or have big art, or be able to have a lot of options in how they're living in their space, and then also have an attachment to the history of what went on in previous generations. And I think this gives you the best of the very contemporary new elements within the very historic building.
Are you finding that there is a select age group, or is it a wide-ranging?
There is actually a very wide diversity of people buying these units. I've been very surprised at the buyer profile. There's been people coming from Irvine and Santa Monica and San Francisco buying these units, and then there's a lot of local people all the way up to people in their 60s and 70s buying this type of space and wanting to live a little differently. So
must be an adjustment to move into a building like this when you're used to 4 walls and a door.
Right. It would be a very, very major adjustment. And the other interesting element is people with children that are living in this type of space. And certainly you have the freedom to put up some division walls, put up little mezzanines because the ceilings are so high, little sleeping lofts, various elements where you can create more private spaces. But people want to live in a little different way. And
Gary, there's parking. Where is the parking? Is it going to be subterranean?
Yes, the parking is in the basement, which used to be, I believe, the old, the bargain basement, really. So we had to cut a ramp in from 4th Street, and I think we have 57 spaces in the basement. And it's all, gated, so you come in, you click your little remote, you drive into the basement, and then you go with your security into the lobby in the basement, and then get on the elevator and come up to your loft.
And how many units on each floor?
In the main building, there are 13 units on each floor, and then we have the 7 penthouses.
Mm-hmm. Could we go up and check the penthouse locations?
Absolutely.
Let's go. Right. Gary, this is a long, narrow unit, isn't it?
It's actually the deepest unit in the building. It's about 70 feet deep, and it's approximately 24 feet wide. This is one of the largest ones in the building, roughly 1,650 square feet.
And whoever is lucky enough to live here has a stairway going nowhere?
Absolutely. This is one of the old exit stairways from the department store. So we decided to save this element, and you could use it as your stage area, you could use it as your office, and if you had quite a bit of money, you could buy the unit below, open up the floor, and you could buy the unit above and open up the floor. So you really could have, a 3-story unit, but it really, adds a lot of character to the unit, and it just is, once again, it's that piece of history, part of the old Walker building that I think people really are going to interact with and enjoy.
That's going to be a unique conversation piece when people have a get-together up here, isn't it?
Oh, right. I think you're going to have people all over, just sitting all over the stairs, and it's going to be very much a part of the way people live with the stair.
Now, you said this is an old part of the old fire escape?
Right. There used to be fire escapes that were on Pine Avenue and on 4th Street, and when we were retrofitting the building, we took off all the fire escapes and salvaged them, and there are select units throughout the building that receive the fire escapes, and the fire escapes get mounted on the wall approximately 8 feet off the finished floor.
And what would they be used for? Just for decorative purposes?
It's up to you, whatever you want to use it for.
It'd be unique,
different. Absolutely.
Okay, well, let's go up to the penthouse area. But before we do, don't go away, because we'll be right back with more Long Beach Treasures.
What makes Paulie's different?
Well, first of all, his coffee is fresh roasted 1,000 miles from Seattle, so we like to have coffee that's fresher and tastes better.
We carry about 70 varieties of coffee. But the thing that I believe makes Polly's special is the people who work at Polly's. We're a neighborhood store. We're your family store. We know you, you know us. We'll take care of you.
We were voted the #1 coffee house in Long Beach in the recent Press Telegram poll.
Polly's Gourmet Coffee. Doesn't get any better than this.
Oh, hi, I'm Dr. Jack Thomas, and I'm very excited to tell you that Dr. Jack's House Call, in conjunction with Charter Communications, is on the air in its brand new format. We're live the third Tuesday of each month at 6:30 p.m. with repeat performances twice weekly. It's incumbent on us to be advocates for our own good health. Staying well comes from living well, being informed, and not relying on health insurers who may not have our best interests in mind. So be smart. Tune in. It's your life.
Wow, now how many penthouses are there going to be up here?
7 penthouses and a common area deck for the entire building.
And the common area is going to be located?
Over here on the west side of the building, there's going to be a jacuzzi, there's going to be a fireplace, some exterior seating, a barbecue area. There's an inside room, which is kind of like a little rec room, and a library conference area.
Now this will be for all the tenants, not just the penthouse.
Right, for all the tenants, and the penthouses have their own individual private patios on the 4th Street and the Pine Avenue sides.
You get a spectacular view up here, don't you?
Oh, it's incredible.
You can see downtown LA on a clear day in the Hollywood sign and Santa Monica Mountains.
Now, this side doesn't have the crenellations. Is that by design?
In the original layout, all the crenellations were only on the 4th Street and the Pine Avenue side. This was considered, you know, the back of the building, so it was just
and
pretty
like
plain.
most buildings, the sides that didn't face the traffic, foot traffic, was not developed or finished off.
Exactly. You get a spectacular view of Catalina. You can see ships coming in and out of the harbor, and at night it's just phenomenal watching all the cars go across the bridges and just the blue line running to downtown LA. Just the whole city life feel is really nice from up here.
Now, the penthouse here, is it going to be 2 stories, or is that 2 different penthouses?
No, it's a 2-story space. All the penthouses are 2 stories. The master bedroom area is up on the 2nd level, a master bath, a laundry room, and then down below are all your living spaces. The other additional feature on the 2nd floor is there's a bridge leading across the dining room and then out to an exterior balcony that juts beyond the building so that you can see views all the way around and up and down Pine Avenue. That's really one of the most special features of the units is the bridge catwalk.
Let's walk over. I want to get a closer look at the crenellations that have been installed up there, and tell us how you installed them. Okay, now we're standing in one of the penthouses. Where are we?
This is the dining room area, and as you can see here, this has an incredible window. It's about a 4.5 foot wide by 9.5 foot tall window facing south, and there's also another window facing west, so you get just incredible views. And the window also opens up to your private exterior patio, which has your own exterior fireplace. And the ceilings in this area, it's a 2-story space. They're about 19 feet high.
When you say window, is this a fixed window, or is this a window that opens as a door?
It's a huge single hung window, so the whole bottom half of the window raises up, so you'll be able to get lots of nice ventilation in.
But you can't walk out through the window.
No, there's a door right beside it over here.
Oh, okay.
And actually the form of those windows took on the form of the original historic windows in the building. They're just at a different scale. So they're a much larger scale, but they have the same pattern as the windows down in the original building, and the same in the living room over to the side, only at a smaller scale.
Now you said this has a fireplace on the patio. Is there one inside also?
Yes, there's a big fireplace over on the living room wall, which is right behind us over here.
So they really are going to have some really spectacular patios here.
It's pretty incredible, and once you get up one more floor higher, the views just open up even more. And these units are approximately 2,000 square feet with about 800 square feet of exterior patio space.
I want to walk out and look at these crenellations here. So
okay.
Let's just jump right through the window.
Let's go through the window.
Now, you had all of these recreated.
Right. There's a poured-in-place concrete stem wall that's about 8 inches thick on top of the building. So it's actually poured in, and there's steel that goes down into the existing building. And then all of these caps that you see here, these are all precast pieces that were then doweled into the poured-in-place concrete cap and grouted and filled. And the large pieces you saw downstairs are placed on the exterior of these and also doweled into the poured-in-place concrete wall with steel and epoxy. It's just really sound feature.
Now, all of the units have a private patio and a tremendous view, I assume. Is that right, John?
Right. Every unit has at least an 800 square foot patio with its own private exterior fireplace. The number 3 unit actually has a much larger patio, and it has a second level deck also that overlooks all of Pine Avenue.
By the way, are these gas burning or wood burning fireplaces? Or combination?
They are combination. They have gas coming to them, but they're also wood burning.
John and Gary, I know that you did the Crest Lofts. You're doing the Walker Building. What made you want to salvage, redesign, and rework historic buildings?
Well, it's kind of been going on for a long time. I used to work in downtown Los Angeles in the Loft District and saw what they were doing with buildings 10 or 15 years ago down in that area. And when we moved to Long Beach, we moved into the historic F&M Bank building that had a lot of history to it, and we looked right out at the Crest building, which was at that point slated to be torn down. It was all gutted and ready to go. So we came up with a scheme for it and kind of went from there. And now we really enjoyed fixing up the old building and also adding new features to it that give it a whole new life.
Is it more expensive to remodel a historic building rather than starting from scratch?
Yes. Probably significantly more expensive because of all the structural considerations. We had to put in a lot of shear walls, and it is such a huge building that you have to build it of a certain construction quality out of concrete and steel and non-combustible materials. So that becomes more expensive than building a typical wood frame apartment building or condominium building on top of a parking garage like they're doing in several other projects in town. So it is a more expensive construction type, but we think it's well worth it in the end.
Gary, do you have any other buildings, historic buildings that you're considering?
We've actually been meeting with a few people on several buildings in downtown Los Angeles and a couple other buildings here in Long Beach. So we're really excited about doing some similar projects here in town.
Would these be loft type apartments also?
Generally, that's the craze right now. Everybody tends to latch onto that term, but you know, it's all really depends on what the program is and really what works best for the building.
Are most of the people who are buying these units, are they professional?
It varies. It's really hard to say. I mean, it goes from, I don't know, all from A to Z. Just really no one particular person type.
If I'm not mistaken, I think you two have another project that you're starting on also, are you not? I'm talking about Belmont Shore.
Oh, right, the Northwoods Inn.
And what's going to happen there?
Actually, the building is being remodeled, and it's going to be divided into approximately 3 different retail spaces. Some restaurant space, and some retail space.
Are you going to melt the snow?
I think the snow's in the process of being melted as we speak.
That's a trademark that's going to be missed in Belmont Shore.
Right, it is. But I believe it was required in the purchase that the snow be removed and the logs be removed by the Clearman family. So that's why they took it that direction.
Maybe this is an unfair question because I know construction is difficult at times, but do you have any idea when the first tenants might move into this building?
We're hoping for March, April, I believe, for the base 39 units. The penthouses construction may go on considerably beyond that.
But they should all be available at least by the end of the year?
Oh, yes, certainly.
Gary, how did you get involved in construction of the Walker Building?
Well, this project actually came about from a neighbor, my neighbor Bill Lindborg from Borg Development. He lives about 4 houses down, and over the years we had just talked about this and just got together one day and, you know, with his tenacity just decided to make it happen. He's been just a real trooper on the whole project, and he's still going hard at it. So it's been, like I said, it's been an interesting project, lots of fun.
Think he would undertake another project of this type?
I say we give him 6 months off in someplace nice and sunny, and he might just do that.
All right, he's done a great job.
It's incredible.
Well, I'm just really thrilled to see the progress that you've made here, because we have so many historical buildings in Long Beach that have been threatened over the years, and when somebody takes pride in ownership and restores some of these buildings, my hat's off to both of you, because I think this is just a wonderful way to show Long Beach's past.
I think it's very fun to do this. You get a lot of enjoyment out of it when it's all complete. You know, there are lots of trials and tribulations over the 2.5 years that we've been working on this. So it's been under construction about approximately a year, but we've been working on it since probably mid-'99. So it's been a long road.
And as you look around up here from the rooftop, you see so many of the historical buildings that have been designated in the city of Long Beach. I can pick out almost all of the 10 buildings that are on the National Registry of Historic Places, except for I think a couple of them that are up in the Virginia Country Club area. The rest are all basically in the downtown area.
Right, I think you get such a perspective of downtown Long Beach when you're up on top of the Walker Building or up on top of the Crest Building, and to actually live on top of an old historic building like this, it's a real privilege. I think it's very, very nice, and you really get a whole city feel that's really unlike any other place in Southern California.
Well, I want to thank you gentlemen for joining me today, because I know this is going to be a spectacular building. I wished I had a loft here. In fact, I'd like to have one of the penthouses. I think it would be...
There's still 3 available.
Well, okay, $1 down, $1 a month.
Bring your checkbook.
Will do. John, thank you so much. Continued success. We'll look forward to the Northwoods Inn. And thanks, Gary, for joining us. And I also want to thank Michelle Bridges for joining me today. I love your colors on the building, and why don't you give a quick promo for your walking tours?
Thank you so much, Harvey. I had fun working on this building as well. Also, we would like to invite everybody to join us every Saturday of the month on our downtown walking tours of Long Beach. We offer 2. One is the downtown area that starts at the historic Wilmore Building, goes down through the downtown, and follows up along the promenade. The other one is the East Village walking tour that starts over on the promenade and it weaves its way down into the beautiful East Village, ending down in and around the Villa Riviera. So join us any Saturday. Just go ahead and call Long Beach Heritage at 562-493-7019 for reservations, and we look forward to seeing you.
And again, thank you, Michelle. It's always a pleasure working with you. Come back and join us again next month as we take another walk through history and uncover more Long Beach treasures. Welcome to another edition of Long Beach Treasures. I'm your host, Harvey Keller. Today I'm standing in front of a building that was built in 1924 to house a branch of the Long Beach Public Library. It was severely damaged in the '33 earthquake and was closed for several years. After it reopened, it remained a library for several more years, but by the end of the 1940s, several additional branches have been opened, and this closed permanently, and the building remained idle. Fortunately, the Assistant Leagues of Long Beach was looking for a new home to hold their meetings and to house the Howard Collection, a priceless Oriental collection of Oriental objects and furnishings. So if you'll come with me, we'll go into the chapter house and we'll see the Howard Collection. We'll take a step back in time and we'll see the Orient of old. So come with me. Ohio.
Ohio gozaimasu, and welcome to the Assistance League Chapter House.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us into your chapter house. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, I'm Kathy McHugh, and I am the chairman of this Howard Collection.
What is the Assistance League, and what is the Howard Collection?
The Assistance League is a group of women in Long Beach. It's a nonprofit organization that was founded in the 40s to serve the community, and that's what we try to do. And the Howard Collection are all these wonderful things that you see in this room.
I don't think many people in Long Beach are aware that the Howard Collection exists. I think it's Fabulous.
Thank you. Thank you. The Howards were such interesting people. They were a couple that met and married in Hawaii in the late 1800s and 1890s. And then about 1912, they came to Long Beach. And in the meantime, they had traveled to the Orient and bought all of these wonderful things, first for their home and then for the Howard Oriental Art Shop, which was down on Magnolia and Ocean.
I believe that was in the old Bixby house, was
That's
it not?
right. That's right. And the Assistance League ladies were looking for a home. They had first been, they started during the war, and they met in people's homes, or they met at the Virginia Country Club or the Boys and Girls Club, and they were heard about the Bixby house. So they went down to look at this Bixby house, and they discovered these wonderful Howard collection. And the Howards were gone at that time, and they said that in their will they wanted to leave their collection to an organization that would care for and share it with the community. And the Assistance League was awarded this collection by the courts in 1948, and the rest is history.
Well, I thank you for sharing it with us today, and let's start the tour.
Okay, wonderful. This is Evelyn Meacham, and she's going to begin by showing you these things.
Hi, Evelyn.
Good morning.
What treasures do you have?
In this case, we have all Japanese artifacts, particularly are the fans. On the fans, you will see displayed plum blossoms, which is the first flower to flower in the spring, and bamboo. Both of these are considered good luck. Other items that might be of interest in this case would be a teapot with cups, a charcoal carrier, and a tea bowl. They did not drink out of cups as we do.
May I ask who the picture is?
This is Mrs. Campbell, the founder of Assistance League.
Oh, very good. And may I ask about the beautiful fireplace? This doesn't look Oriental.
It is not. This piece, along with two companion pieces that you'll see later, were made for the mayor of New York. They were brought to California, and the Howards purchased them when they moved to Long Beach. It is European, took over 3 years to carve, and it depicts the hunt as we would find in Austria, Germany, and on the continent.
It's an impressive piece, but it would take an awfully large room to accommodate it.
Yes, aren't we fortunate that we have high ceilings here? On the mantle, we have a bowl that has the crane on it, and the crane is a symbol of long life in Asia.
Good, then I can just continue on down? Oh, this is a beautiful...
In this case, we have one of our silks. This is a summer robe. It has been restored. It is thought to be a part of the collection of the emperor's family because of the 5 claws that appear on the dragon. On this particular robe, there are 9 dragons on the back and on the front and on the sides.
Do the number of dragons indicate anything?
Yes, 9 is a lucky number in Asia. It also shows the power of the emperor, because the emperor is said to be the emperor of the earth, the water, and the sky. And that's what these symbols all depict. The sleeves have been completely restored, and it is one of our nicer pieces. We love to share that with the school children.
How old do you think this is?
Probably 100 years or more.
Wow. What workmanship.
Isn't that beautiful? All hand done.
And we're going to have another docent. This is Ruth Grabowski.
Hi, Harvey.
What treasures have you got for me?
I've got more than I can talk about, so I'll begin very quickly. I want to begin with the fans. We have, again, 2 of the fans up here, and then these rounded, they're called the uchiwa. Fans were given by merchants, and these fans, particularly the rounded ones, would be given in sympathy for the hot season, because they were trying to, like we get calendars and the new year, they were trying to make sure that their customers would come back and remember them for being comfortable. Celadon, the greenware, was developed in Korea originally. There are various types of celadon here. You can see there's a crackled kind, and you can also see that there are various colors. This particular Celadon bowl is considered the oldest piece in our collection, and I love it because it has a crack in it, which makes you really realize that it is old.
The oldest piece in the collection, dating from what period?
I don't know. 15th century Korea. That's
Wow.
as close as I can get. Jade, of course, is a very hard mineral, and Celadon is known as poor man's jade. We have a few little jade items, and they would put pieces of jade on their cloaks as they walked because it makes a tinkle, a very lovely bell-like sound, so they could have little tinkly, beautiful bell sounds as they were going along the street.
Is one of these pieces the favorite of Mrs. Howard?
I don't know. You've asked the wrong person. I'm sorry. Does anyone else know? The oldest one? Yes, the Celadon bowl.
We got our answer.
There you go. Now we're coming down into the blue and white ware.
Now, you know, this looks so much like Delftware from the Dutch. Does that have an influence,
Well,
do you think?
of course, the Portuguese and the Dutch were, into trading with the Chinese and the Japanese. So, yeah, I guess it would. If you go to the East Coast, the Carolinas and Georgia, a lot of this was export where it was used as ballast on the, remember they were windblown ships.
Mhm.
And of course, a lot of them arrived in the Carolinas, and the very wealthy, when you go on like the Natchez home tours and stuff, you'll find a lot of the blue and white ware. A particularly interesting thing is the snuff bottles. These are painted from the inside. The artisan would use a brush with maybe 1 or 2 hairs, and it's still an art that is done, but there's a tiny hole at the top, and we show them so that you can see the back, so that you can see this is how cleverly the artist has painted them. The very fragile ware, I don't do ceramics, but I can't imagine creating out of wet clay a piece this delicate that could go into a kiln, get fired, and retain its shape. I mean, these are master workers.
I can't believe someone could paint a beautiful picture from the
I know.
inside out.
I know, but they do it, and as I say, it's an art, and it's still being done. Now, I always ask the young people, what is this? And the answer I get are pancake maker or tortilla warmer. These are mirrors. The other side is polished metal, and the lucky people who could afford brass would have a beautiful mirror. Now, this is a wedding gown. Red is the color of happiness, the color of children, and the bride was considered to go into her husband's family as, a happy, productive child. So they wore a beautiful, bright color. I'm impressed with this because I think her posture must have been wonderful because look how high the neckline is. Really is incredible. This is a beautiful lacquered box. We have a lacquered table, or lacquer inlay table later on in the tour. We get here, and we get Japanese porcelain. You can tell the Japanese from the Chinese because it has more colors, and it has the discrete medallions. You'll see more red and green and gold on the Japanese ware. This particular piece, we try to teach about symbolism, and here we have the turtle with a pine tree and a plum tree and bamboo all on his back. It just is wishing you long life. The bamboo is thrown in so that you can sort of bend with the wind, and the plum blossom is there, I suppose, for beauty. And these things all incorporated would make your life very happy.
So every detail, every character has some symbolic meaning.
Pretty much. From color to animal selected to flower selected, everything has its own meaning. I think I'm rushing because I want to make sure I get to tell my story about this. This is my favorite display for the 7th graders, because when they come in, the girls are wearing, Nikes or shoes that looks like they could walk on the moon. Well, I tell them this is, if you were very lucky, this is what would happen to you. You would be born to a family who, from the day you were born, would wrap your little tiny feet very, very, very tightly, so that by the time you were 19 or 20, this is how long your feet would be. This is called a lotus foot, and it was considered the epitome of beauty. These are a normal girl or woman's shoes. These are the lucky girls. And of course, the girls are going, ew! And we have a photo here of what the foot actually looked like. I don't know if you can get it. It was grotesquely misformed or misshapen.
Wouldn't that be difficult to walk in such a...
They could not walk. They had to be carried. That's why it was important that you belong to a wealthy family. And of course, that opens discussions of what is real beauty. Do you have to weigh only 85 pounds to be really beautiful? You're making yourself as unhealthy as the women who had bound feet, and so we have a benchmark for opening conversations. The kids love it. They just love it.
This is a beautiful headdress.
This is a theatrical headdress, and indeed, at its beginning, it must have been so gorgeous and brilliant. Just a really wonderful piece. This piece is a very subtle, and we're seeing the blue and white and the very vivid colors. This is so beautiful in its quietness with its depiction of cranes. Again, long life symbol. So it's a beautiful thing. This is Britannia ware, which is not Oriental, but it's just beautiful pieces. Metalware, of course, was rare, and only the wealthy could afford it. So it's significant that it's in the collection. This is, I don't know, I might have to move here for you to get a shot of it. This is a Japanese kimono. Kimonos are very, very long. The obi takes up quite a bit, so that this is the only safe way we can display them. And by the way, we never touch these fabrics. We always wear white gloves. It's just an ordeal almost.
Because they're so fragile.
Yeah, they're so fragile. To store them, to unstore them, they're put in with, acid-free paper, and there can be no folds, and on and on and on and on.
Are these cases humidified?
Yes, they are. They are. And you may notice in the corner, there's a desiccant. And one of our duties whenever we come is to make sure that we aren't seeing little dead bugs or anything. We've got to maintain these artifacts, well, museum quality, so we maintain them as museum. Above are 3 lovely temple bells. I've never rung them. I have no idea how they sound, but they certainly look good. Now, she had mentioned that there is a companion case to the fireplace, and this indeed is one of them. Notice the carvings.
Let me see if I can guess these correctly.
Oh, let's.
Shakespeare?
Oh, my. Yes.
Beethoven.
I think you've got a crib sheet someplace.
No, but you can tell from the carvings.
Correct, correct.
And these belong to the governor of New York also?
Yes. The artifacts that are in the cases are things that would probably be at an inn or with a large family or for a family reunion. So you can see they're larger. It gives us nice access to larger things. Notice just the little chairs.
Dragon chair?
Yeah. Dragon chairs, the children, I don't know, do I call them children or young adults? I guess they're young adults at that point. They like the chairs. They like the
carving is just phenomenal. Uh-oh, I get another quiz here.
Okay, yes you do. Let's see, there should be...
Columbus?
Yes, there's a globe.
And this might be Leonardo da Vinci.
Wonderful, all A's, Harvey. Just couldn't have been better. Do notice the top with the hunters and the bugles. And again, more large pieces. There's a frog on the top of this, which is a Japanese good luck sign. This would probably have been used with a work group, and the teapot would have been suspended on a rope as they were walking.
What beautiful carving.
Exquisite. And now, I'm going to turn you over to...
Oh, I didn't realize you were going to have a champagne reception for me.
Well, we hope we catch your attention. And
Champagne for one?
Cause you to linger here a little bit so we can tell you about the uses we make of this lovely museum for the community. We offer docent-led tours for groups of 10 or more at no charge. And then we also rent out this museum and this lovely patio for weddings. It makes just a lovely setting for a wedding. And other groups may hold formal teas here. We have lovely silver service that we share with people as well.
This is a huge but beautiful table.
It's one of the many pieces that are not part of the Asian collection.
And let's go over here. Introduce yourself.
I'm Carolyn Lockhart.
Hi, Carolyn. What treasures do you have?
Well, I have a gaming table. Oh. You know, people in the Orient always played games. And this one has carved upon it the 4 seasonal flowers, the chrysanthemum, the lotus, the plum blossoms, and help. And the peonies, yes, each on the legs as you go around the table.
And this is rosewood?
This is rosewood, correct. And these chairs are carved from the same wood as the table.
Can you imagine how long it would take to do a carving of a table like that?
I can't imagine it, but I can tell you how long it takes to clean it with Q-tips.
Probably as long as it takes to carve it.
Just about, just about. We do this 4 times a year with very careful care and polish it as we go.
Now this is something that looks a little frightening.
Well, the children love this because this is our samurai warrior, and you can see he has everything he needs. Well, he doesn't really. He doesn't have his armor, but we'll show you that in a minute. Please look at his hat. He has a little hole in the top, and smoke would be coming out of that. And the antlers on top are reference to his beginnings, which was in the farming community, and they looked like the hoes that the Japanese used.
Now this is all made out of silk and leather?
No, they're little pieces of metal, of iron, enclosed in lacquer. And then these little pieces, as you see down the shoulder pad, are joined together with cording that's made of silk in most instances, but some of it is leather, yes. And inside of these little pieces going down the arms, those are little pieces of metal that have been lacquered and then joined together with other things.
This has to be a work of art also.
Yes, very definitely. And you'll notice they protected their arms and their neck because he has extra pieces over his shoulders. And in the back of the hat, there is a large ruffle that hangs around it. And the face was supposed to be as fierce as possible. We always tell them that the nose is removable, probably because it knocked off the most. And here, I'd really like you to see our flags. Did you know that the Japanese invented flags?
No, I did not.
And they like to show stories in pictures. So this is the Moen, which is the clan sign of the group of samurai we're talking about. And this is a picture of a lady who is rather large, and she is the samurai general's wife. And they've gone to Korea to fight a battle. And in the battle, her husband is killed. Well, she happened to have been very pregnant. So she had her baby, and she gave it to this camp follower over here, the old retired samurai, to take care of. Now, she looks funny because she put on her husband's armor. You see her shoulder, and she's got his sword and his arrows. And she got on the horse and led the men into battle, and they won, or so the story goes. We couldn't have them lose.
What a legend.
That's the whole idea. Okay. This is full of it. And over here, we have, a doll. That is the kind of thing that would be a gift to the firstborn in a family on Boys' Day, which is May 5th. And this would be a complete replica of the samurai, because they would hope that he might want to be one in the future. And that was really the nobility of people in Japan for nearly 700 years. And over here is his long sword. He also had a shorter sword. Now, these swords could be 3 feet long, or they might be as long as 7.
Wow.
And you took great skill to pull them out of the scabbard. And if you were attacked, even if you were asleep and attacked, you were disgraced if you didn't have the sword itself pulled out of the scabbard at least 2 inches. I don't know how you did that, but anyway. And over on the other side are his long, long bow and his arrows. Now, they were tremendous archers, just tremendous, and particularly accurate on horseback. And they did another little trick in battle. They wore flags on the back of their uniforms on a staff. So they had these scary faces. They had gongs sounding. They had arrows that had perforated points. So in the first group of arrows that were shot in the battle, these perforated points were screaming as they went through the air. They weren't going to hurt anybody when they got to the other end, I suppose, but they were going to make such a hideous sound that it scared their enemies, and they often turned tail and ran.
That's really a detailed doll.
Yes, it is. He has his face and his little mustache under his hat there, you can see, and you can see again the little hole for his incense or smoke to come out at the top of his hat. Now, I would like to take you over to introduce you to our other displays.
All right.
On either side of our doorway, we have garden lanterns in which would have been, incense would have been burned so that you'd be greeted by this lovely aroma as you came into the garden.
These would be in the private homes?
Yes, I think so. There is another one on the other side of the little door here.
Okay, and would you please introduce yourself?
I'm Dorothy Farrow.
Dorothy, who is the picture here?
This is Mrs. Howard, the donor of the Howard collection. She's wearing a fine dress with peacock feathers on it, and this is she in later life.
And I believe you know all about the little crickets over here? Yes. I think this is wonderful.
I love it too. Crickets as pets go way back to the Tang Dynasty and from about 600 to 900. And so they treated them just like we do our pets. They had special houses for them. Their cages were made of wood and bamboo, and some of them were gourds as well, with very ornate tops carved so the cricket could breathe.
And I understand they had trainers and doctors?
Oh, yes. If they were sick, they would take them to a doctor for special medicines. But they had trainers because they loved cricket fighting. And so they had special diets. They treated them specially. They starved them before a fight, and then they would have the fight. The arena, no bigger than a dog's dish. And so they built special buildings for these fights that you can still see in some places in China. They could win a lot of money and gold, silver, or jade, and the cricket would get a roasted bug. And so this became a big industry. It gave them much pleasure and joy as pets, and they had to make these things. And I love the tiny little dish in which they would put food or water for the crickets. And before the fight, they would have to be weighed in to see if they would fight as a lightweight, a middleweight, or a heavyweight. So,
what a wonderful story. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello, I'm Mary Emma Wright, and I'm going to show you the gong that we use to start our meetings and our presentations.
All right.
In ancient times, that's the way people were called together, to hear something important or to hear the news from the emperor. So we start our museum days with the gong.
I bet the kids love it.
They do. They do. And I'd like to tell you about this chair. It's a very wonderful chair. It's carved intricately with monkeys. In China, monkeys are mischievous. And these monkeys are being mischievous. They want the peach seed. And the peach seed is there for them to get, and then they will live forever. They will have immortality. And then I'd like to show you the next case. This is a case that we change quite often, about 4 times a year. And right now we're featuring wood blocks because wood blocks are very important in the Japanese culture. In the middle wood block you will see samurai warriors having a fight. There are 2 of them there. And on either side you'll see the kabuki actors that are acting in the theater. On the top shelf you'll see dolls, very old dolls at either end, and in the middle a netsuke and an enro. In kimonos, when you wore them, there were no pockets, so you had a netsuke and an enro to keep your little treasures in.
This is a beautiful screen here.
Yes, and this is very special to us. We've just had it restored. It is very beautiful, made of mother of pearl and ivory and bone. And then it's lacquered, the back, and carved around the frame. It just came out so beautifully that is one thing we like to do, restore our treasures.
This is gorgeous.
And in the next case behind the screen, we have another treasure, and that is the purple bowl. This is probably one of our most valuable things because it belonged to the emperor's grandson. Purple was the color used only for the grandson of the emperor in China. On that same shelf we have something tall, which is a lacquer case, and then you see a ostrich feather that was used to blow away the insects, because in the Buddhist religion they did not kill anything, not even insects. And hanging on the wall horizontally, you'll see 2 sleeve bands embroidered with the forbidden stitch. It was called that because they had young girls do it starting at age 8, and then by about 14 they couldn't see very well, so they forbade that stitch in China. And in the next case, we have Evelyn Meacham back again to tell you about the treasures in this case.
Hi, Evelyn.
Hi again. In this case, we have quite a few Japanese items. Starting over here, we have a covered bowl that might have been used to store tea. You know that the Asians loved their tea. This is a neckband. The Chinese wear a robe without a collar, and they like to decorate those robes with a little piece like this, or even more so. Down here we see a crab, and that's a sign of good luck, and an actual carved wood block. Also a tea bowl and an incense carrier in that case. In this case, we have a couple of items you might be interested in. A foo dog, which you probably have heard about. They are considered to be good luck, and they chase away evil spirits. So people would have those in their homes or at the entrance to their homes. This is a full neckband, as you can see, around the collar. Here's another incense carrier, and on the side are some tweezers to pick up, like the incense if it's glowing, or charcoal to carry it about. Here's the famous monkey tray with the hear no evil, speak no evil, and see no evil. And on the bottom shelf we have depictions of the 8 immortals, people who supposedly found the secret to immortality in the secrets of nature.
Our children are asked not to touch, just to look. But we got this Buddha. He's in the Zen position, or the meditative position, and they get to pet him and see the wisdom bump and the long ear lobes. So each of the students gets to pet him.
Rubbing Buddha brings good luck?
Oh, I think so.
May I?
You may. And the curly hair.
How can people come in and see this marvelous collection?
We ask them to call our office. I have the number here. The office phone number in Long Beach is 439-0484. Call up, and if you have a group of 10 or more, we'd be happy to arrange for a museum day with you and provide docents with a tour.
And I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to see it, and I'm glad that we have the opportunity to let people in Long Beach know what a treasure they have here.
Well, thank you again for helping us to show it to them.
You know, these are all volunteers. Aren't volunteers wonderful?
We enjoy it so much.
They lift our spirits.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today, and come back and join us again next month as we take another walk. Hello, and welcome to another edition of Long Beach Treasures. I'm your host.